They said a roadside bomb killed me overseas. But I was very much alive, dragging myself out of the wreckage. 3 months later, when I finally came home, I found out someone collected my military death benefits. And their signature matched two people I trusted most. My fiancé and my mother. They told the world I died at 3:17 p.m. on a dirt road in northern Afghanistan. But the truth is simpler than that. I didn't die. I watched my own blood pooling under me, felt gravel embedding into my skin, and listened to a medic scream my name while everything sounded underwater, but I didn't die. I remember the explosion like a flashbulb behind my ribs. 1 second my unit was laughing about the lousy coffee, the next the entire Humvee lifted off the ground like a toy kicked by God. I hit the gravel hard, my ears ringing so loudly it felt like the world itself had split. Someone was yelling, "Officer Dawson is down. She's gone, she's gone. Gone." I could barely move my fingers, but I lifted one hand anyway. "I'm here," I croaked. It wasn't loud. But it was enough. That moment, when life clung to me like a thread, stays tattooed on my bones. The medic who stabilized me told me later, "We thought we lost you." I wish they had kept thinking that. At least until I made it home. Because when I finally reached US soil 3 months later, I learned something far more painful than being left for dead. Someone had already buried me. And they collected money for it. But that part comes later. For now, all you need to know is that I should have died that day. My team called it a miracle. Doctors called it physiological stubbornness. My mother called it God giving me one more chance. Funny. She didn't act like someone grateful her daughter survived. But I didn't know that yet. I was still lying in a military medical tent, staring at the ceiling, thinking only one thing. I want to go home. My fiancé, Mark, was the first person I tried to call. For the first 2 weeks, every attempt went straight to voicemail. "Hey, it's Mark. Leave one." I did. Every time. I told myself our rural Virginia town had terrible reception. I told myself he was working double shifts. I told myself I'd see his face soon. But during recovery, something strange kept happening. Every nurse, every officer, every soldier who glanced at my chart would pause, look at me, then double-check the file like something didn't make sense. One night, a doctor murmured to another, "How did this get cleared if she's still?" He stopped when he noticed me awake. Still what? Still alive? I didn't ask then. I didn't want to know. I just wanted home more than breath. But the military doesn't release you easily. I spent weeks relearning to walk without feeling like fire ants were eating my legs. Weeks convincing psychiatrists I wasn't having flashbacks. Weeks pretending I didn't hear every explosion replay in my head when I shut my eyes. When they finally discharged me, my hands were shaking the whole flight home. The stewardess thought it was nerves and brought me tea. If only. I was shaking because I couldn't wait to surprise Mark. I imagined him running to me at the terminal. I imagined my mother crying so hard she'd smack my shoulder like she used to when she was happy. But when I landed, no one was there. Not Mark. Not Mom. Not a single familiar face. Just an Uber driver holding a sign with my last name misspelled. A strange heaviness dropped into my stomach. Something was wrong. I just didn't know how wrong yet. The truth would come in layers, slow, suffocating, unstoppable. And the first crack appeared the moment I stepped onto my front porch and saw the envelope waiting for me. My own name. My own death certificate. Stamped and approved. The envelope wasn't old. It wasn't weather-faded. It hadn't been sitting there long. It was crisp. Perfectly sealed. Fresh. Like whoever left it knew exactly when I'd come home. My legs felt numb as I bent down and picked it up. I already recognized the format. The government watermark. The folded tri-panel layout. Military death certificate. I'd seen dozens over the years. Never one with my name staring back at me. Officer Naomi Dawson, deceased. My throat tightened. They listed the time of death. The cause. Even a signature from an approving officer. Whoever filed it wasn't guessing. Someone had submitted paperwork. Someone had pushed it through. Someone had confirmed it. And someone very real, had been paid because of it. My hand trembled as I flipped the page. Recipient of death benefits, Mark Ellison, fiancé. Secondary recipient, Linda Dawson, mother. My fiancé. And my mother. Both listed. Both had been paid for my death. My stomach knotted so violently I had to brace myself against the railing. I wasn't naive. I'd heard stories in the service of shady relatives filing for false benefits, corrupt legal guardians signing off accidentally, distant spouses claiming money before proof. But Mark? My mother? Mom, maybe. Maybe she misunderstood something. Or fell for a scam. Or someone convinced her. But Mark? My fiancé? The man I wrote letters to every night? The man who proposed to me under that stupid oak tree behind his father's barn? The man who said, "Come home to me. I don't need medals. I need you." He didn't even show up at the airport. Not even a text. A cold breeze went through me. The kind that doesn't come from outside, the kind that grows inside your ribcage. I walked to the door slowly, unlocked it with shaking fingers, and stepped inside the house I had dreamed about for 8 months. There were clothes on the floor. A wine glass on the coffee table. 2 plates in the sink. And perfume. Heavy. Sweet. Not mine. I moved through the house like a ghost watching her own life. My shoes echoed against the hardwood. The buzzing refrigerator filled the silence. Then I saw it. A framed photo turned face down on the mantel. I picked it up. It wasn't dusty. Someone had placed it face down recently. It was the picture of me and Mark at our engagement party. He was laughing. I was kissing his cheek. Why would someone flip it? Why hide it? My heart pounded against my ribs. Then I heard a sound upstairs. Soft. Movement. I froze. Mark? My voice cracked. Is that you? Silence. For a moment I thought maybe I was imagining it, traumatized, overwhelmed, misreading everything. But then. A muffled laugh. A woman's. Something inside me snapped. I walked up those stairs slowly but steadily, each step heavier than the last. The hallway smelled wrong, floral perfume mixed with lavender lotion. At the end of the hall, the bedroom door was halfway open. Light spilled out. And 2 voices whispered inside. I pushed the door open. And my world split in half. The door didn't creak. It didn't slam. It didn't even make a sound. It just drifted open like the room itself wanted me to see the truth. Mark was sitting on the edge of our bed, the one he promised we'd grow old in. His hair was messy. His shirt half-buttoned. His expression frozen between guilt and disbelief. But it wasn't the sight of him that hit me like a punch. It was the woman on my side of the bed. Her legs still tucked under my blanket. My pillow behind her. Her body wrapped in one of his shirts, the one he wore the night he proposed to me. For a moment, none of us said anything. Mark's mouth opened, but no words came out. The woman flinched, pulling the blanket up like I was the intruder. That was the moment the truth settled in my bones. They weren't shocked that I walked in. They were shocked that I walked in alive. My fiancé swallowed hard. His hands were shaking. Naomi, hey, you're supposed to be dead. My voice sounded like someone else's. Quiet. Steady. Too steady. He finally looked directly at me, and I saw it, not grief, not love, not even fear. I saw calculation. Like he was rearranging a story in his head, trying to make the pieces fit before I asked the question. The woman spoke first. Mark, you told me she. Mark snapped his head toward her sharply, like he could silence her with just a look. I stepped further into the room. My boots echoed against the wooden floor. The dog tags around my neck clinked softly. Finish your sentence, I said quietly. No, please. I want to hear it. She pulled the shirt tighter around her. He told me you died overseas. Months ago. He said he was grieving. He showed me a death certificate. My heart stopped. He showed you a death certificate? She nodded quickly, tears spilling out. He said you were gone. That he was trying to move on. That your mom was handling everything. I swear I didn't. Mark cut her off, shouting, voice trembling. Naomi, listen to me. This isn't what I was going to tell you. I didn't know, I thought. You thought I was dead, I whispered. The room felt too small. The walls too close. Like air had become something I had to fight for. The woman slid off the bed and grabbed her purse, never meeting my eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered before rushing past me and down the stairs. Her footsteps faded. The house went silent again. Mark stood slowly, running a hand through his hair, pacing like a man rehearsing excuses. Naomi. I didn't mean for this to happen. I was hurting. I was lost. They told us your unit. No, I said coldly. You told them. You filed the paperwork. His jaw clenched. I can explain everything. I took a step closer. Explain why my mother's name is on the benefits list. That stopped him. Dead still. His eyes flicked to the floor, the same way the doctor looked when he told me the truth. Naomi, please. No, I whispered. Start explaining. Because if you don't, the military will. That was the moment his face changed. Not into guilt. Into fear. Real fear. Like he finally understood. I wasn't the one who came back to be afraid. I was the one he should have feared. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even move for a few seconds. I just stood there, staring at the man I was supposed to marry, the man who held me through storms, wrote me long messages during deployment, promised he'd wait forever. Now he stood in front of me, breathing fast, sweating, eyes darting everywhere except my face. Naomi, please sit, he said softly, like I was the unstable one. I didn't sit. He swallowed, hard. Okay. Let me explain. Explain what? I whispered. That you lied to her? Lied to my command? Lied to the government? Lied to everyone? He flinched. You filed me as dead, Mark. His hands shot up like he was surrendering. I didn't know, I swear, I didn't, it wasn't supposed to go that far. Stop lying. My voice cut through the room like a blade. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. Guilt sat on him like a second skin. Then something snapped in me. I walked past him, toward the dresser. He lunged slightly as if to stop me. But didn't dare touch me. I pulled the drawer open. That's when I saw it. A folder. Thin, manila, ordinary. But the moment my fingers touched it, the air felt heavier. Naomi, don't. Mark stepped forward, but one sharp look from me stopped him mid-breath. I opened the folder. Inside was my death certificate. My name. My birth date. My service number. My photograph. Black ink. Government seal. Signed. Stamped. And at the bottom. Next of kin beneficiary. Mark Dalton. Linda Dalton, mother-in-law, ***. The room tilted. I wasn't just pronounced dead. They profited from it. Mark rushed forward, grabbing the edges of the folder. It's not real, it's a copy, just paperwork. Your mother insisted, she said you were probably dead. I asked, voice cracking just once. You were so sure you'd get my body they didn't even wait for it? He shook his head violently. She said your unit reported you missing, she said they needed closure, she said the process would just make things easier. I laughed. Not a happy sound. A hollow one. Easier for who? You. Her. Your new girlfriend? He dropped his gaze. There it was. The truth he couldn't hide anymore. I was going to tell you, he whispered. When? When the money cleared? The silence that followed felt dangerous. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. Naomi, listen. This wasn't just my idea. I froze. What? It isn't what you think. I didn't do this alone. I stepped closer, barely breathing. Then who did? He shut his eyes. Your mother. Everything inside me went still. My mother? I whispered. He nodded, slowly, fearfully. She came to me. She said we should start preparing. Said the chances of your survival were low. Said she didn't want to lose the house again. She said she needed help. Financial help. My heart twisted painfully. She helped you fake my death? My voice was barely a whisper. Mark nodded again. She signed the documents with me. I felt the world tilt. My mother. The woman who raised me alone. Who cried every time I deployed. Who told me she'd wait at the window for me to come home. She benefited from my death? I said slowly, voice trembling. Mark swallowed. Yes. I stepped back like he'd hit me. And suddenly I understood why no one answered my calls during deployment. Why my mother never wrote me. Why Mark avoided video calls. Why my mail stopped mysteriously. They weren't grieving me. They were spending me. My legs almost gave out. Mark reached toward me. Naomi, please, I didn't want this, I swear, I got dragged into it. I jerked away. Dragged into it? He was living in the home my death paid for. I looked at him, really looked, and said the words he didn't expect. I'm not the one who should be afraid right now. His face drained white. Because he knew exactly what I meant. I wasn't just a woman cheated on. I was an active-duty Navy officer. And fraud against the U.S. military isn't just betrayal. It's a federal crime. I didn't go home. Not to our home. Not to the place funded by my own death. I left Mark standing in the middle of that bedroom, clutching the folder like it might save him. He didn't run after me. He didn't apologize. He didn't beg. Because he knew the second I walked out that door, I wasn't coming back as his fiancée. I was coming back as the woman who would expose everything. I drove straight to the one place I still foolishly believed in. My mother's house. The house where I'd learned to tie my boots. The house where she pinned my first Navy badge onto my uniform. The house where she cried the day I shipped out. And the house she apparently bought with money she got by signing me dead. The driveway looked the same, cracked cement, a faded welcome mat, wind chimes tapping in the warm Texas breeze. Only now, the house felt like something else. Like a crime scene. I stood there for a long moment, breathing through the betrayal that felt too big for my lungs. Then I knocked. Softly at first. Then harder. Mom? I called. It's me. Open the door. Silence. But I heard movement inside of footsteps, the scrape of furniture, the subtle panic people make when they try to hide guilt too quickly. I knocked again, sharper. Mom. I know you're home. Still nothing. Then a voice, thin, trembling, pretending. Naomi, sweetie? Is that really you? When the door finally cracked open, she stood there gripping the frame like she needed it to stay upright. Her face drained of color. Her breath hitched. It was the expression of someone seeing a ghost. Because to her, that's exactly what I was. I thought, she whispered. You thought I was dead? My voice cut clean. Yeah, I figured. Her hands shook violently. She reached out to touch my face, but I stepped back. And her arm froze midair. Where were you? She stammered. Why didn't they tell us? Why didn't? Stop, I said. Her mouth closed instantly. I already know. Her eyes darted, searching for a lie that would sound believable. There wasn't one. Mom, I whispered, I saw the paperwork. She swallowed. Hard. The death certificate. Your signature. The payout line. I paused. The money. Something inside her snapped, a small gasp breaking through her lips. Naomi, you don't understand, she finally whispered. Then make me, I said, crossing my arms. Because right now, all I know is that my fiancé and my mother declared me dead and cashed in. Her face twisted, not with denial, but with shame. She sank onto the small bench by the window and covered her mouth. I wasn't thinking straight, she said. I was scared. I thought, you weren't answering calls, your commander said communication was down, I didn't know if you were alive or gone. And instead of waiting, I said quietly, you signed me away. Tears filled her eyes. I was behind on mortgage payments, she whispered. You know how hard things got. They said the payout would help me survive, that maybe I'd sleep again, that maybe it was a way to accept. To accept what? I snapped. That your daughter might not come home? That I might have already lost you, she sobbed. I stood still. Cold. Not because I didn't understand desperation. But because what she did next made my blood freeze. They told me to do it, she whispered. I blinked. Who? She looked up, and for the first time, real fear drenched her eyes. Mark's mother, she whispered. She came to me. She said Mark was grieving. She said you weren't coming back. She said it was better to prepare. I stared at her. Unmoving. And you believed her? My mother broke. She covered her face and cried in her palms. I was tired, Naomi. I was lonely. I was terrified. And she promised it would help both of us. Both of us. Not me. Not her. Both of them. I felt something burn through my chest, a slow, painful, irreversible severing. You didn't lose me, I whispered. You sold me. She looked up at me, horrified. And for the first time in my life, I walked past my mother without hugging her. Without reassuring her. Without forgiving her. I headed straight for the kitchen table where a stack of unopened mail sat. A letter peeked out, government sealed, stamped. When I opened it, my heart stopped. It wasn't addressed to me. It was addressed to beneficiary Linda Dalton. My mother. And inside, written in blunt, emotionless ink. Final notice, confirmation of death benefits approved and processed. She hadn't just signed a paper. She'd accepted the money. My mother. The woman who raised me. The woman who buried me on paper. And while she sobbed behind me, I folded the letter and said only one thing. This isn't over. I sat across from the legal officer, the fluorescent lights above us flickering like they were nervous too. He slid a folder toward me, brown, creased, and too light for what it carried inside. My name was printed on the front. My full name. The same one they had stamped deceased 3 months ago. I didn't touch it at first. My fingers hovered over the edge, cold and unsure. "Ma'am, you'll want to see the signature page," he said softly. He wasn't wrong. The room felt too quiet when I finally opened it. Page after page of forged documents, death certificate, payout forms, statements, notarized lies. Someone had gone through a lot of trouble to erase me. And then I found it. The signature. Not printed. Not stamped. Signed by hand. I knew those loops. Those sharp angles. That practiced, slightly rushed pressure. The way the tail of the Y always dipped too far down. It didn't belong to a stranger. It didn't belong to a thief. It belonged to Evan. My fiancé. The man who promised he'd wait for me. The man who held me before deployment and whispered, "Come back to me." I pressed my thumb over the signature, half expecting it to smudge. It didn't. The officer watched my face change. "This isn't the worst part," he said quietly. He handed me another page, a beneficiary addendum. Next of kin, not me. Not my mother. Not even my brother. It listed a woman I didn't recognize. Address, local. Relation, future spouse. My throat locked. He didn't just sign my death certificate. He replaced me. He planned a life without me. A future. A wedding. While I was across the world swallowing sandstorms and patching up soldiers who screamed in languages pain doesn't translate. I leaned back in the chair, the edges digging into my shoulder blades. For a second, the room sounded like the inside of my helmet during deployment, ringing, hollow, distant. My heartbeat was louder than the air. "Who is she?" I asked. The officer shrugged, uneasy. "We don't know yet. But her ID was submitted with the paperwork." He placed a small printout in front of me. And the moment I saw her face, my chest burned. She wasn't a stranger. She was my fiancé's mother. The woman who hugged me at Thanksgiving. Who cried when I left for deployment. Who kissed my forehead and said she'd watch over him while I was gone. She didn't just watch over him. She helped him bury me. My vision blurred around the edges, but I didn't cry. Crying felt too small for this kind of betrayal. Too gentle. This wasn't heartbreak, this was a funeral for a life I didn't know I'd already lost. I closed the folder slowly, like sealing a casket. The officer cleared his throat. "We will open a federal investigation. Fraud of this level, it's serious." I nodded, but I wasn't listening. All I could think about was their faces. Evan's eyes when he lied. His mother's tears, fake, rehearsed. The empty chair at every holiday table while I was deployed. They didn't think I'd make it home. Or maybe they hoped I wouldn't. Either way, I was alive. And that ruined their plan. I stood up, steadying my breath. "I want to meet her," I said. The officer blinked. "Who?" "His mother." Because before the government questioned her, I would. I didn't go home after leaving the base. Home didn't feel like a place anymore, not when someone inside it had already buried me once. Instead, I sat across from a small-town diner, watching the steam bleed from the windows. His mother worked there mornings. She always bragged that she liked keeping busy. Now I knew what that meant. Keeping busy forging my death. I waited until the lunch crowd thinned, until her silhouette passed close enough to the window for me to recognize the familiar sway of her shoulder, the same one she used to drape around me during holidays. And even now, she looked exactly like the woman who once told me, "You're the daughter I never had." I stepped out of the car. Something in the air felt unnatural, still, heavy, the way it feels right before a storm drops. My boots hit the pavement louder than usual, each step a reminder I was still alive. The diner bell chimed as I walked in. She looked up. And I watched it happen, the second her brain connected my face to the person she thought was buried under government paperwork. Her mouth fell open slightly, just for an instant, before she forced a smile she couldn't control. "Honey," she whispered, voice cracking. "You're home." I didn't sit. Didn't hug her. Didn't give her the performance she was reaching for. "Yes," I said, my voice level. "I'm alive." Surprised? A plate slipped in her hand. It was subtle. But I saw fear, real fear, ripple through her face like she'd been caught stealing oxygen. She motioned to a booth, her hands trembling. Let's talk." I kept standing. "I know you signed the documents." Her jaw clenched so hard the muscles near her ear twitched. "Sweetheart, I don't know what." "Don't," I said quietly. "Please don't insult me more than you already have." She sank into the booth, her shoulders falling like sandbags. The force of the truth was too much for her to hold upright. I stared at her, remembering the birthdays she attended, the nights I cried in her kitchen when deployment felt too heavy, the way she promised she'd protect him while I was gone. Apparently, that protection included getting me out of the picture entirely. She rubbed her face. I didn't think you'd come back." There it was. Honesty, finally. Sharp enough to cut the air between us. My voice stayed calm. "Why?" She swallowed hard. "He told me he couldn't keep waiting. He said your deployment would keep extending. He said he needed a life." Her eyes lifted. "He said you'd understand." Understand? Understand that my fiancé and his mother conspired to erase me? Understand that while I was stitching soldiers back together overseas, they were stitching a new life using my death? The diner suddenly felt too small. Every breath felt borrowed. "Where is he?" I asked. Her eyes jumped away. Guilt always looks at the nearest exit. He's not here." "Where is he?" She hesitated, then whispered the address. A new apartment complex across town. The place he'd planned to start his new life. The place he thought I'd never see. I turned to leave. "Wait," she said, her voice trembling. "Please, don't ruin his future." I stopped just long enough to give her the truth she deserved. He ruined mine first. Then I walked out, the bell chiming behind me like a final verdict. I didn't know if I was going there for answers. Or for an ending. But either way. Someone was going to finally look me in the eyes while I was still alive. The apartment complex sat on the edge of town, new, polished, the kind of place people move into when they're ready to start fresh. A place built for new beginnings. Or in his case. A beginning that required me to be dead. I parked across the street and just sat there for a moment, watching the sun slide behind the roofs. My uniform felt heavier than usual, like every thread was asking the same question. "Are you sure you want to see what's inside?" But you can't fear answers when lies have already swallowed your life whole. I walked up the stairs slowly, not because I was nervous, but because I wanted to feel each step. Feel the weight. Feel the truth getting closer. Apartment 203. The number looked clean, unbothered, untouched by guilt. I wondered if he ever thought about how easily numbers change, but people don't. I lifted my hand and knocked. Once. Twice. A third time. Footsteps. Soft ones. Not his. The door opened, and there she was. A woman in her mid-20s. Pretty in the polished, deliberate way. Hair curled. Makeup perfect even at 6 p.m. Comfortable like she belonged here. Her smile faded when she saw my uniform. Can I help you?" I glanced past her. A jacket on the couch. His jacket. Thrown the same careless way he always left it at home. Except this wasn't home. And I wasn't part of the picture. He's not here, she said quietly, as if she already knew why I had come. I figured, I replied. Her eyes darted away, guilt, recognition, something deeper, I couldn't tell. But she stepped back, almost reflexively, like standing too close to a soldier with a truth to deliver might burn her. You must be, she hesitated. His fiancé? I didn't answer. She swallowed. That was enough of an answer. I didn't know, she whispered. He said you died overseas. There it was again. That word. Died. Like it was something you could hand out to people as an excuse. And you believed him? I asked. Her cheeks flushed. He had paperwork. Real paperwork. I didn't think anyone lies about something like that. Her voice cracked. She wasn't the villain here, she was collateral. Another person he built lies on top of. Where is he now? I asked. She exhaled shakily. He left an hour ago. He was panicking. He said something was wrong with the documents. He said everything was falling apart. Good. It should fall apart. She stepped aside. Do you want to come in? The question hung in the air. Part of me wanted to see the life they built with my death. To walk through the rooms where laughter lived while my name was fading off the world. But I didn't. I didn't need to breathe in a home made of lies. No, I said gently. You don't owe me anything. She looked at me with something close to pity. You didn't deserve what he did. No, I said softly. Neither did you. A car door slammed in the distance. We both turned. It was him. Walking toward us, keys in hand, his face pale the second he saw me. Time slowed in a strange way, like the universe wanted to make sure I saw every second of his expression collapsing. He whispered my name like it was a ghost he thought he'd buried. Why, you're alive? I didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't break. I've been alive the entire time you were spending the money, I said. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. And for the first time since I came home, I felt something shift inside me. Not rage. Not shock. Not even relief. Just readiness. Because now the truth wasn't hiding in documents. It was standing right in front of him. And he had nowhere left to run. His footsteps faltered before he even reached the building. He looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe lies shrink people long before the truth does. The younger woman lingered behind me, frozen in the doorway. He kept staring at me as if blinking might make me disappear again, the way he'd planned. The way the paperwork said I already had. I stood still, letting him drown in the seconds he never expected to face. I can explain, he finally stuttered. It was almost funny. Almost. Because people who steal don't usually practice speeches for the day their crime stands breathing in front of them. You filed a death certificate, I said. Forged signatures. Claimed military benefits. Signed paperwork saying you were grieving. He swallowed hard. His hands shook. You weren't supposed to come home yet, he whispered. The sentence slipped out before he could stop it, raw, panicked, revealing everything. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I didn't mean it. Not even, it was a mistake. Just. You weren't supposed to come home yet. Like my survival, disrupted his plans. The woman in the doorway gasped softly behind me, covering her mouth. He tried to compose himself. Listen, we can talk inside. We're not going inside, I cut him off. He winced like the sound of my voice hurt. Maybe it did. Maybe guilt cuts sharper than glass. I was going to fix everything, he whispered, stepping closer. By doing what? I asked. Killing me for real this time? He froze. Silence thickened between us, heavy, suffocating, shaped like every lie he'd ever told. He looked at the woman behind me. She wasn't supposed to find out. She stepped back, eyes wide. You told me she died. You showed me papers. She wasn't supposed to. Stop saying is supposed to, I snapped. You don't get to plan people's lives like they're items you can edit. For a second, he looked like a child caught stealing candy. But what he stole wasn't candy. It was money meant for families who actually grieved. For soldiers who actually didn't come home. For mothers and fathers burying real daughters. He stole because he thought I wouldn't return. He stole because my absence was convenient. He stole because love was just optional to him. So what did you spend it on? I asked coldly. New apartment? Gifts? Vacations? Her? His face tightened. So that's what this is? You're jealous? A laugh escaped me, short, sharp, hollow. Jealous? I echoed. No. I'm here because you turned my life into paperwork. Because somewhere in a government database, I'm a corpse. Because you signed your name on a form saying you cried for me. He winced. I had no choice. You had every choice, I said. You just didn't choose me. He looked down at the concrete, jaw clenched, breathing fast, cornered by the truth. And then, he snapped. All you ever cared about was the Navy, he shouted. Deployment, missions, honor, what about us? What about me? I needed something too. I stared at him. Not shocked. Not angry. Just aware. Because that was the real truth. He didn't want a partner. He wanted a witness to his life. Someone who stayed quiet, stayed small, stayed useful. And now you want sympathy? I asked softly. He didn't answer. I'm going to the police, I said. And to the base. And to the VA office. Your time's up. His breath caught, not because of fear, but because his new life, his perfect little stolen paradise, was collapsing right in front of him. The woman behind me whispered, I didn't know. I swear. I believe you, I said. But believing him? That ends tonight. I turned away. Behind me, I heard him whisper my name again, desperate, broken, terrified. But I didn't stop. You only stop for someone who mourned you. Not for the one who buried you alive. I thought the confrontation with him would be the hard part. But it wasn't. The hardest part came quietly, inside a government office where people spoke softly, as if afraid to disturb the ghosts on the paperwork they handled. I sat in the VA Fraud and Records Division, still wearing my uniform, the one he pretended belonged to a dead woman. A clerk typed with gentle fingers, her eyes flickering between me and the file that claimed I'd been dead for nearly 7 months. They didn't gasp or panic. They were used to errors, but not to resurrection. Ma'am, the clerk finally whispered, adjusting her glasses, your file shows a certified death verification, signed by a family member. My stomach tightened, but I kept my voice steady. Who? She hesitated. Do you want me to say it out loud? Yes. Her screen glowed softly across her face as she whispered the name. It wasn't his. It wasn't the fiancé who'd stolen the money. It was someone far worse. Someone who had known me since I was born. Someone who held my baby pictures. Someone who taught me to tie my shoes and braid my hair. Someone whose signature I recognized instantly. My mother? I whispered. The clerk nodded, voice trembling. She confirmed your death. The world tilted. Not violently, not in a dramatic collapse, but in a slow, sinking fade, like the floor had dissolved beneath me and I was drifting downward through memory and shock. My mother. The woman who prayed over me before every deployment. The woman who sent me care packages with handwritten notes that smelled like honey and lavender. The woman who cried when I left for boot camp. She signed the paper that declared me dead. But why? I pressed my palms against my knees, grounding myself. Can I see the documents? The clerk printed them, sliding the papers across the counter like they might burn her fingers. They almost burned mine. There it was. Her handwriting. Her looping cursive. Her emergency contact signature on file, dated and stamped. Next of kin verification of death. Applicant relationship, mother. Confirmation, yes, deceased. I stared at it, my heart pounding like a distant drum. She didn't even tell me she saw anything, I whispered. She didn't even call. The clerk cleared her throat. Ma'am, in cases like this, people usually do it for the payout. I looked up sharply. My mother doesn't need money. She may also have been convinced it was legitimate, the clerk said softly. Sometimes spouses influence the rest of the family. My breath caught. He. My fiancé. He must have visited her. He must have manipulated her. He must have shown her proof. But something in my chest twisted. A darker possibility. Or she knew. Or she agreed. Or she believed the lie was easier than the truth. The clerk leaned closer. Do you want to press charges yet? My voice came out flat and cold. Not until I hear it from her. The clerk nodded. We'll flag your file so you can't be declared deceased again. The fact she had to say that made my skin crawl. I stood to leave, documents in hand, my mind tangled in betrayal so deep it felt like walking through a dark forest without light. When I stepped out into the parking lot, the sun was still warm, soft gold across the pavement. But I didn't feel it. My mother had signed my grave. I sat in my car, papers trembling in my hands. The little government stamp stared back at me, official and merciless. A part of me wanted to scream. Another part felt nothing. But most of me wanted answers, the kind that either mend or shatter everything left. And then my phone buzzed. A message from my mother. Just 3 words. We need talk. I exhaled, a slow, shaking breath. She already knew I was alive. But the question was, how long had she known? And why didn't she tell me? I thought I'd need time before facing her. I didn't get it. When I pulled into my mother's driveway, the porch light was already on even though the sun hadn't fully set. She always did that when she was nervous. A habit from childhood storms, when she feared the darkness might swallow the house whole. I stepped out of my car slowly, the death certificate copy folded in my jacket pocket like a loaded weapon. My boots hit the walkway, each step heavier than the last. The door cracked open before I could knock. She stood there. Smaller than I remembered, shoulders curled inward, like her own guilt was bending her spine. Her eyes were red, not from crying today, but from crying often. She whispered my name like it hurt her mouth. Baby, you're home. Home. The word tasted wrong. I walked inside without hugging her. The silence behind me felt like a slammed door. The living room looked almost the same, old couch, floral curtains, a family photo shelf. Except one frame had been moved, the one with me in uniform. It had dust on it. She didn't offer tea. She didn't ask about my deployment. She went straight to the couch and sat, fingers twisting into each other. When I didn't sit next to her, she swallowed hard. I knew this day was coming, she whispered. I pulled the document out and placed it on the coffee table. She flinched like it was a weapon. You signed it, I said. No emotion. Flat. Controlled. Her chin trembled. I didn't want to. That didn't stop you. She squeezed her eyes shut, and something inside her cracked. I only signed because he told me, he showed me. I stiffened. My fiancé? She nodded, tears gathering. 3 months after your deployment, he came here. He said you were missing after an explosion. He said the military couldn't release details, but he had contacts, people who told him you were gone. Gone. She didn't even say dead. She couldn't. She kept going, voice shaking. He brought a photo, it was burnt unrecognizable, but he swore it was your remains. I didn't want to believe him, but he was so broken, so convincing. He said the Navy needed a next of kin signature to finalize your benefits. He said it was the only way to honor you. I stared at her. You didn't call anyone? Didn't ask for verification? Didn't doubt him? She covered her mouth with both hands. I wanted to. God knows I wanted to. But he said if I asked questions, the Navy would delay burying you for months, and I couldn't bear the thought of you lying somewhere alone. I clenched my teeth so tight my jaw buzzed. And the money? I asked quietly. She froze. There it was. The moment truth shifts from tragic to ugly. He told me it was your wish, she whispered. That if anything happened to you, he should receive the benefits, for the life you never got to build together. My stomach churned. You believed that? I whispered. After knowing him for 4 years? You thought I'd leave everything to him? She looked down. I wanted it to be true. Because if it wasn't, then I would have had to face the possibility that he was using me. And I couldn't face losing you and being wrong at the same time. I stepped back. Her excuses tasted like diluted guilt, watery, weak, and too late. So you signed, I said. You helped him bury me. Her shoulders caved. I didn't know he collected the money. He said it was frozen until military confirmation. I didn't know what he was capable of. I shook my head. Yes, you did. You just didn't want to see it. She looked up, eyes full of something deeper than regret. I keep thinking, she whispered. What if you hadn't walked through that door? What if I never knew he lied? Would I have lived the rest of my life praying over a daughter who wasn't dead? The question sank between us, heavy and sharp. I didn't answer. Because the truth scared me. She might have. After a long moment, she wiped her eyes. What will you do now? I looked at the death certificate. Then at the door. Then at her. I'm going to finish what he started, I said. But not the way he wanted. Her breath hitched. You're going after him. I didn't deny it. Because justice wasn't optional. It was already in motion. And someone who buried a living soldier should learn what it feels like when the dead come home. I didn't go home. Not yet. The night felt too restless, too full of truths finally dragged into the open, and if I went back to that quiet little apartment, the anger would have nowhere to go. It would sit with me. Grow inside me. Rot me the way his lies had tried to. So instead, I drove. The road stretched long and empty, the kind of highway where the stars look brighter because there's nothing else to interrupt them. My hand stayed tight on the wheel. Every mile pulled me further away from my mother's trembling voice. And closer to the one person who had orchestrated my burial. Miles later, his house appeared, the same one we once planned to start forever in. It looked different now. Smaller. Almost pathetic. I didn't park in the driveway. I stopped across the street, engine running, headlights off, watching the warm glow leaking from behind his curtains. He was home. He was comfortable. He was alive, while I was supposed to be dead. I stepped out of the car, boots hitting the pavement with a steady rhythm, each step louder than the last. Not because of sound. But because of purpose. By the time I reached his porch, my heartbeat wasn't fear. It was certainty. I knocked once. Just once. A quiet, controlled strike against the wood, the kind of knock only someone who knows the truth would make. He opened the door halfway, not expecting anyone. He was holding a beer bottle and wearing the same smug, boy-next-door smile he used to get free favors from neighbors. Then he saw me. Everything in his face died at once. The bottle slipped. It hit the floor, beer spreading across the hardwood like spilled guilt. His lips moved but no sound came out, like he couldn't decide whether to scream, deny, or slam the door. I didn't give him time. "Hi," I said softly. "Surprised I made it home?" He stumbled backward, grabbing the edge of the table. His voice cracked when he finally found it. You're supposed to," the Navy said. "No," I cut him off. "You said. You forged. You lied. You buried." His legs buckled slightly. "Your mom, she signed it too," she thought. "Don't," I snapped quietly. "Don't drag her into your crimes to save your skin." He swallowed hard. His eyes darted between me and the hallway behind him. A guilty man's instinct. Always looking for the escape route. "Why would I lie?" he whispered, desperate now. "You were gone. I thought you were. You cashed the benefits," I said. Calm. Sharp. Precise. His face drained. "You bought a car. You cleared your credit card debt. You even put down a deposit on a condo under your name and another woman's." I lifted my chin. "She your new start? Did she help bury me too?" He collapsed into a chair like his bones could no longer pretend to hold him up. "I didn't mean, it wasn't, it got out of control." "Fraud usually does," I said. He froze. Because that word, fraud, wasn't emotional. It wasn't personal. It was legal. It meant consequences far bigger than guilt. "I didn't want to hurt you," he whispered. I stared at him, this man who once promised me a life. This man who forged my death because he got tired of waiting. This man who chose money over morality. "You didn't hurt me," I said quietly. "You buried me. You spent the payout. You moved on." His eyes glistened. "Please, what are you going to do?" I stepped closer, letting the silence stretch, letting him feel the weight of every choice he made. "I'm a United States Navy officer," I said slowly. "I don't get to decide the punishment. The law does." His breath caught. "You're turning me in." I met his eyes, steady, unshaken. "No," I said. "I already did." The color drained from his face. "They're on their way," I added softly. And as the distant sound of sirens began to bleed into the quiet neighborhood, he finally understood something. The dead don't knock. But justice does. I stepped off the porch while he fell apart behind me, and for the first time in months, the night air didn't feel heavy. It felt clean. Not because the story was over, but because the truth had finally come home.